Welcome back to Introduction to Engineering Design. This is Module 5.5a, and today we're going to work on our paperclip layout. And what paperclip exercise is about is really learning a little bit about sweeps, and it's an introduction to the sweep. So a sweep is really to project a geometric shape along a path. And in this instance, our shape that we're projecting is a circle, and the path is the bent outline that a wire would be bent for to make a paperclip. So you'll see that I've given you some dimensions in a sketch, a fully defined sketch up here for you to use, and we're going to talk about the sweep. So that's what the sweep requires. Two things: a path and then a profile. The profile must intercept the path. So let's start out with drawing in a new sketch here. So I'm going to go File, New, Part. Okay. If I go to Features, you'll see I don't even have Swept Boss available as an option, and that's because I don't have enough information to do that particular action. So let's start out with a sketch in the front plane of our geometry. Good practice. I'm going to start at my origin, and I'm going to go ahead and start doing my layout. Now, you'll see I get my horizontal glyph, that little yellow line, drop my line, and I could just stretch a line out, or I could insert an arc. But if I come back with my tool and I touch the dot and I get that little circle, concentric circle, I am now doing a tangent arc. There's a tangent arc of 180 degrees, and it keeps my tangency relationship for me. So it's really a neat thing, a quick way to draw and to just lay out really quick and accurate drawings. Come back, touch, get my arc. Whoops, got the wrong kind of an arc there. Touch the wrong thing. If you get the wrong arc, it's no big deal. Just come back and pick it again. So there I've sketched my paperclip. A lot of different ways I could do it. I could sketch a line, and I could then go and choose a 3-point arc. Do something like that. And then draw a second line. I could do all of that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not as fast. Reorient it. I could do all sorts of different things. So a lot of different ways to do it. I just showed you probably the quickest and the slickest way to do that. So let's go ahead and start adding some dimensions. I've given you sample dimensions. That's not the point of this exercise. You can make it any size that you would like. The point is just to give you something to get started with. So as I dimension here, I'm just going to keep working as I talk. And you can take a look down at your paper and see the actual dimensions as you go through the exercise if you want to do my dimensions, or you can use yours. I'm going to leave this a little shorter than what I had shown before in my sketch. And I'm missing one dimension here. Sorry. This is, I believe, 1.5. It is. All right. So I've got a fully defined sketch down here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a way to put a plane into this drawing. So I'm going to do it slightly differently than it's depicted in the handout. Now, to put a plane in, I want to exit the sketch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Features and add a reference geometry, a plane. Now, what a plane requires is it requires the definition to be either 3 points that form the 3 constraints on it. It requires a offset plane, or a point in an offset reference, or just 2 offset references, like a mid-plane between 2 faces. So a lot of different ways to do a plane. So I'm going to do this one using the end point here. So I've got an end point, and I'm going to say it's coincident, so you'll see that coincident is highlighted. In the second reference that I'm going to choose, I'm actually going to come down here and expand my tree, and I can start to see my planes. My second point that I want to make it parallel to my right plane. So you see it's parallel to the right plane. So you see that's my new plane. I'm going to accept that, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to call it my profile plane, because that's where I'm going to sketch my profile. So that's how we put a plane into a drawing. All right, so let's go ahead and choose our plane, and I'm going to highlight my plane, and then I'm going to choose the sketch tool. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start a circle at the end of my path, and it's going to start in my profile plane here. So I went ahead and selected that circle, and I'm going to give it a dimension, and let's just call this 0.15. And you'll notice that I'm underdefined. And you're like, well, I don't understand why you're underdefined. You're in this plane and you're on that point. Well, the reason for that is I'm not really coincident with that point up there. So let's go ahead and look at the relationships that exist on this circle. You'll see the diameter is all that's really related there. So let's go ahead and choose that end point. Well, first let me show you what happens if we don't. So I'm going to exit this sketch. So I left it underdefined intentionally. And now what we're going to do is come up to our features, and you'll see that I can do a swept boss base. And it asks me for two things. First thing is it asks me, what's the profile? So the first little blue one is the profile. So I'm going to choose my circle. The next thing it asks me is, what is my path? I'm going to choose my path. It's got to be a contiguous path. You go, hey, that works pretty good. No problem at all. I didn't define that sketch. I don't really need to define that sketch, do I? Well, you really do, and I'm going to show you why. Because if I go back into my first sketch and I change this dimension, I'm going to effectively elevate that point where I sketched and accept that and exit my sketch. What the heck happened? My paperclip just disappeared. What really happened here when I go back into my sketch is I moved my point away from my profile. So I no longer intersect that path. So to avoid that, I do need to fully define this plane. And what I need to do is I need to associate those 2 points and make that coincident. Once I make that coincident, my sketch goes fully defined. So I've given it not only a size, but a location in reference to the drawing itself, or the model itself. And now you'll see I get that back. And now if I change my path, because I fully defined that, I'll go ahead and change my path. I can change my path pretty much willy-nilly. Make a really weird looking paperclip. And you will see that nothing changes. So it stays contiguous. So let me go back and fix this. That was 0.3, I think. There we go. And now I have my paperclip. So a couple of takeaways from this that we really have to understand. The first one is that we need to have a fully defined sketch when we do our sweep profile, and that every single sweep requires 2 components. It requires a profile, the circle, right here, and a path. And the path must pierce the profile. It doesn't have to start at it, it must pierce it though. So we looked at inserting a reference plane, we looked at making a swept path, and then we also looked at that profile and the effect of not associating our profile with our path. So that's it for this exercise. Thanks for watching.